Yesterday we discussed about Library of Congress subject headings. So continuing from that, today we are going to discuss about another subject heading list, that is Seer list of subject heading. So we will see what Seer list of subject heading are actually. Okay. So before going into that Seer list, we need to understand the basic terminology about what is subject cataloging and what is indexing. Okay, they may look similar, but there is a difference between them. So both are related to the subject analysis of information packages. That is true actually. So whatever it is, subject cataloging or indexing. In case of indexing, what you do, you read the content of the document and you pick out keywords, right? That is indexing. You pick out keywords which represent the thought content of the document. So those keywords or descriptors or whatever, they are called as index. Similarly, subject cataloging, why do we catalog? Because this subject, we think that this book or this resource might fall in this particular subject. So subject cataloging is a term used for subject analysis operation in library cataloging. So a book on quantum mechanics, you say that, oh, this book is on the subject physics. So we catalog it for the easy retrieval purpose. Similarly, we index the thought content of the document. So index is generally used for subject analysis operation in various information organization context, including, let it be article, web page, surrogates. Surrogates is substitutes, okay, or record collections. Okay, so subject analysis is purely for cataloging purposes, subject cataloging. Indexing is, it's a keywords or descriptors that is used to represent the thought content of the document. Okay, so both are, remember, both are doing the part of subject analysis. So when you see a title of applications of quantum mechanics, you know that, oh, this book definitely comes under physics. So when you want to index the content in the book, you have to read what the book is talking about. Then you do then you prepare a list of keywords based on indexing techniques, let it be precise or chain indexing or whatever it may be, right? So what is the purpose actually? At library, all library work is a matter of storage and retrieval. That's true actually. In library, what we are doing, we are storing the resources, let it be printed or electronic or whatever may, and retrieving. When user asks for a particular resource, he or she must be able to get it easily, retrieve it easily. So that is the main purpose. So cataloging helps us to do this. Okay. So the best cataloging is simply which facilitate the most accurate and complete retrieval. So you should catalog the book resources in such a way that when a user comes to the library, he can easily find the books with maximum accuracy without much confusion. So that is the aim. That is the main aim of cataloging. That is, if you can satisfy that, so the purpose of cataloging is served actually. So what do you mean by descriptive? So there are two types of cataloging actually, descriptive and subjective. So descriptive is nothing but it facilitates the retrieval of material by means of title or author or date of publication or year of publication, publisher details, whatever bibliographical fields it may be, right? So in short, it includes all the searchable elements of a cataloging record except the subject. Okay, except the subject, whatever subject, it doesn't focus on subject. It focuses on the descriptive nature of the resource. Let it be title, let it be author, Ranganathan, whatever it may be, right? Or Abdul Kalam, whatever it may be. So descriptive features of the document. So only by conforming to the standards of descriptive cataloging, a librarian can assure the accurate retrieval of descriptive elements. So you have to conform to the standards, you have to conform to certain standards. So once you conform to these standards, these are some, we know that MARC, ISO, these are standards, right? So once you are conforming to certain standards, there are, similarly for descriptive cataloging also there are standards. So once you conform to those standards, you can facilitate effective retrieval for the users, right? So similarly, descriptive cataloging, we discussed, it describes the physical attributes of the book or bibliographical details which can be searched. Okay, so whereas subject cataloging, the name itself says it's subject, right? So it deals with the book or other library what a book or other library is about. That means what the book is talking about. So quantum mechanics, in the sense it's principles of quantum mechanics, we can say it is talking about, it is a field of physics, it is talking about quantum mechanics. So what it is talking about, okay, the purpose is to list under one uniform word or phrase all the materials on a given topic that a library has in collection. Similarly, right, in DDC what we do, the summaries we listed. Oh, this quantum mechanics, it will be under physics. Library administration, so put it under library science. Okay, so these are the single heading for different colon classification, put it under library science. So library science is a single heading that represents the subtopics which fall under the subject. So this is the purpose of subject cataloging, right? See the purpose, list under one heading, only under one word or one phrase. Okay, so it is uniform, that should be, the word should be uniform word or phrase used in library catalog to express a topic. So if you put colon classification in animal classification, it will be wrong, right? So you have to select a uniform word that represents the subject, okay, library catalog, to express a topic. So you have to identify a uniform word, and the use of authorized words, phrases with cross references from unauthorized synonyms is the essence of bibliographical control in subject cataloging. So there are certain words which are authorized, okay. So these heading lists and these subject names, there are authorized standard ways of using it, and when you use these standard terms, it will be easy, actually it will be easy to control the bibliography. That is called bibliographical control in subject cataloging. So using standardized terms is very much essential, remember that. So the purpose, I told you about subject authority in the last class, again I will brief it, is purpose of a subject authority is such as, so SEER list, medical subject headings, Library of Congress, LCSH subject headings, all are parts of subject authority. Okay, so the purpose of this is to provide basic vocabulary of authorized term together with suggestions for useful cross references. So it is essential to use authorized term. That is because, so for example, you are if you are sick means what, so I'll tell this, I'll put it in a simple way. So we are coming to a library. When a person come to a library, what we call them, we call them a library user, okay. But in America they call them as a patron. In some special libraries they call them as a clientele or a client or whatever it may be, right? See, the meaning is same here. So meaning is user coming to the library, so library user. It's a common term, right? It's a simple term, but they are calling it as patrons or students or learners or whatever it may be. So all literally mean the same thing. But in my library, if I index a term using user, in your library you are using patron, then what will happen? For one document I am indexing as user, for another document I am indexing as patron, and another document I am indexing as client. So I will not get all the documents which are under user, and I will not get all the documents which are under patron also. So it will be confusing for the user. So for that, so all these common terms should have a uniform heading. That is called authorized title. Okay, authorized means, so this should be used everywhere. So do not confuse, do not use multiple headings. Okay, so in one case you are using user, one case you are using patron, one case you are using clientele. That will be, what is it? That is not wrong. But what happens is it will confuse the reader. So our aim is to facilitate effective and quick retrieval, right? So for that you have to use uniform words. So for that, authorized words are given by LCSH, SCSH, and for medical terms, mesh subject headings. Okay, these are called as subject authorities. So authorized terms means, so I will use user only for all the documents related to patron or clientele or whatever it dealing with library users. So that is a uniform term, and you can give always cross references like C also, clientele or patron. So cross references will be an additional detail, okay, for them to refer, right? So your authorized terms are essential for effective retrieval. Fine. So these are the different types of subject authorities. So what are the types? One is thesaurus, and we will be discussing about thesaurus in the forthcoming classes. So what is thesaurus? What is the need for them? How do we construct a thesaurus? And the factors associated with it. And the next is subject heading list. That is what we are talking about, right? So a thesaurus is in the realm of information science, it's a controlled vocabulary of discrete unit terms called descriptors. Okay. So I told you about what is controlled vocabulary. It is like assigning a tag to particular vocabulary, right? So it is arranged in such a way to display the hierarchical and associative relationships among terms. So I told you about this hierarchical and associative also. So hierarchical is nothing but broader term, narrower term is something. So remember top to bottom order, right? In a hierarchical structure, what will happen? So head will be there. The head will be there. Do take a university system. Vice chancellor, deans, head of the departments, faculties, associate professors, assistant professors, then students. That is the hierarchical order, right? From top to bottom, or from the bottom to top, whatever it may be. And associative, I told you, associative is association. There is a relationship between, that is related terms, RT. So RT comes under associative relationship. NT, BT, narrower term and broader term comes under hierarchical relationships. So while dealing with thesaurus, I will be explaining those also, but it will come. And in the last class also, I have given an overview about what is associative, what is the different types of relationships also. Okay, you can always go through that. So a subject heading list is such as I told you, what is let it be Library of Congress or Seer list or medical subject heading, whatever. It is listed in an alphabetical order. Okay, it is listed in an alphabetical order that have established over the time as warranted by the material being catalogued. So depending upon the material being catalogued, depending upon the emergence of new subjects, so new terms are added. So in every editions of Seer list or LCSH, you will come to know that some headings may be removed and some headings may be changed, some headings may be added newly. So we saw in the LCSH, right, instead of computer networks, they are using it as internet because of the change of subjects and change of vocabulary. So every time they will change. You also need to update it when you are using this subject heading list, right? Fine. So these are the two types of subject authority. So determining the subject, the first is determine the subject of the work. So you must understand what the work in the sense is the resource, the book or whatever it may be. Let it be a physical book or electronic resource or whatever it may be. So what the book is talking about, what is talking about, that aboutness is important. I am saying it is colon classification. So that means this book is talking about a classification scheme which is followed in library science for arranging the books. So colon classification is a broad heading, that's it. So what it is talking about? It is talking about a classification scheme or a way of arranging books in the library, way of classifying books in the library, resources in the library. So what the aboutness is very much important. Okay, the aboutness is very much important, and that should be the first step. So what the book or what the resource is talking about is very much important. That is the first step. So you see this example. Many times the subject of the work is readily determined. Yeah, that means you can easily understand from the title itself. Hummingbirds is obviously the subject of the book entitled The Complete Book of Hummingbirds. You see, the title is Complete Book of Hummingbirds. So obviously you can know from this title, you can easily say that the book is talking about hummingbirds, because in this title itself you can see the subject can be readily determined. So it is clear, the title is clear and concise, and it gives away the subject so easily. But in some cases it will not be like that. From the title alone you cannot determine what the subject is. And if you determine like that, in some cases it will be misleading. Okay. So a book entitled Great Masters in Art. So what you suggest is, immediately suggest a subject artist. But when you read the book, you will understand that it is not about artists, it is about painters. So not about artists in general. Okay. So once you read the book, or once you read the thought content of the book, you will be able to understand what the book is talking about. So in general title like this, General Masters in Art, when we see the title, what we think, oh, this is talking about artists in general. It is not like that. It is specifically talking about painters only. So the painters is the subject here. So similarly, if in certain books you can get the subject from the title alone, in certain resources you cannot get from the title alone. So you have to decide what the book is talking about. So this factor is called as aboutness. So aboutness is the first and important step. Okay. Once the cataloger, after you determine the subject, whether it may be a painter, talking about painter or hummingbird, whatever it may be, once you have decided the subject content of the work and identified with it explicit visible words, okay, can the seer list, now you can use the, once you have identified the subject, and in both the cases we have identified, one is hummingbird subject, another one is painters, right? So now what we are going to do is, now we are going to make use of seer list of subject heading to the good effect. So the first step is we have to determine the aboutness, right? So the second, after the determining the aboutness, we are going to use seer list of subject headings to our good effect, that is to our advantages. See, if the word cataloger choose to describe the subject content of the work is an established heading in the list, then you can use it automatically. So, seer list gives you an authoritative, that is authorized list, right? They have predefined list. So, for library user, use users, that is a predefined. Don't use cataloging, don't use clientele or patron. So, if you have identified a list, so if your aboutness is available in the seer list, you can use it directly. If the word cataloger chooses a synonym or an alternate, so you chose that clientele represents. So here the book is talking about the information seeking behavior of patrons. The book is talking about, like the title itself having patrons. So the you cannot use user there. So it is a related term. So user is the authorized term given in seer list, but the title is having patrons, right? So you cannot exclude patrons. So in that case, what you have to do is, if the word cataloger chose is a synonym or an alternate form, in that case you have chose patron as the word, but in seer list user is available. So what happens is, the cataloger foregoes the word that came into mind in favor of the term from the list, okay. The cataloger foregoes, that means you have to forego it in favor of the term from the list. So you have to select user only, not patron, and you can always add C also references for patron, okay. So it will be better to add an authorized title. Remember that if it is talking about users in general, authorized terms in general, you can automatically take it. If the authorized term is not available, so you know this book is talking about patrons only, but in a broader sense we know the uniform term or common term is user. That is what given in seer list. So you can take users. Okay, I am giving an example only. So you can take users. You have to forego what you have thought. Okay, you have to take users, and you can always give C also references to patrons. Okay. A third possibility is when there is no related term or no list. So you have identified a new topic. You have identified a new head, new aboutness. That means painters. Painters will be there. But for example, I am saying painter is not in the seer list. What you will do? In that case, you must formulate appropriate heading, adding it to the subject authority file with attendance referees, then assign it to the work. So you have to add it. Okay. In that case, what you can do is, you can add it to the appropriate heading. So painter, where it will come, the appropriate heading, it will come under artist. Okay. So artist will be there, but painter is not there. What to do? So you add painter under the appropriate heading to create, and you have to add the same term to the subject authority file, the list in which you are going to add, okay, and then you assign it to the work. So this is the protocol to be followed while assigning heading list, okay, using seer list, okay. Once, if the list is directly available, make use of it directly without any further consideration. Once you are identifying a related term, not the direct term, you must use the direct term only in favor of the, instead of, you have to forego the term you decided in favor of the list available in the term. In the third case, when no term is available, what you have to do is, you have to see the appropriate heading where the terms fall under, and you create a subject authority file and add references to it, and then assign it to the work. So this is the protocol to be followed after determining the aboutness of the subject. The first step is about aboutness, and now we have made use of SLSH to assign subject heading. Okay, fine. So many books are about more than one subject. That is true actually, right? Many books are about more than one subject. That means it is interdisciplinary in nature, right? In that case, what you have to do is, you should add more than one heading, right? A second or third heading might be necessary. So theoretically, there is no limit. Regarding the number of subject entries that could made for one work. But in practice, excess entries is not advisable. So if you are adding more than 5 to 6 entries means it is not advisable. It will confuse the user. It is essentially it is good to restrict under 2 to 3 headings, not more than that. Okay. So a subject heading should not be assigned for a topic that comprises less than 1/3 of the work. Remember that. Remember that. Subject heading, this is an important rule. It should not be assigned. So if the book is talking about applications of computer in libraries means there are two subjects, right? Library science is a subject and computer is a subject. So they are talking only in one part, the computer application of computer only in one part, and traditional library in detailed departments you should not assign computer to that. So at least one third of the work should be fall under covered by that subject. So if they are talking about application of computer means that a computer application should be at least 1/3 of the subject. Okay, 1/3 of the subject. If 70%, if more than 80% it is talking about library only 5 to 10% it is talking about computer means you can remove computer. You should not use it. Okay. If it is more than 30% it is talking about computer, and other than library science you can add both. Remember that this is the rule. Just because in title it is there application of computer means you should not add it. You have to check. What is the role of the second subject in the primary subject. Okay, that you have to check it, and how far the role extends, how far the role covers in that subject. Okay, how far the computer is spoken about in this subject, that you have to check it. So for this the most common practice is known as rule of 3. Please remember this is very important. Rule of 3. What it states is, as may 3 specific subject headings in a given area. Remember, there may be 3 specific subject headings in a given area may be assigned to a work. But if the work treats of more than 3 subjects, then a broader heading used instead and the specific headings are omitted. Remember, if there is if a work is talking about 3 subject headings, you can assign 3 subject headings, that is fine. If it is talking about more subject headings, more than 3 subject headings, you should not use 4. You should not use 4 subject headings. It is better to put them into a broader category. This is called as rule of 3. So that means not more than 3 subject headings should be assigned. Simple. Okay, not more than 3. So this is called as rule of 3. So if you are assigning more and more subject headings means it will be difficult. Definitely, it will be difficult. So it is better to assign it in a broader heading if there are more than 3 subject headings. That is the rule of 3. Similarly, check this example. A work about snakes and lizards can be assigned to headings snakes and lizards. That's okay, because it is talking about two subject areas, snakes and lizards. So you can assign it to snakes and lizards. If the work also includes turtles, snakes, lizards and turtles, you can also add turtles. Snakes, lizards and turtles would be good. But if the work also includes, if the work discusses about alligators, crocodiles as well, it's better to assign it as reptiles. Okay. So snake, lizards, turtles, alligators, crocodiles all fall under reptile category, right? So you can assign, if 3 is there, snakes, lizards and turtle is there, fine. You can assign 3, snake, lizards and turtles. Again, if it includes crocodiles and alligators, you should assign it to a broader heading. What is a broader heading here? Reptiles. See, more than 3 means you have to assign it to a broader heading. You should not have specific headings. That is what it is talking about. This rule is very important. Okay, remember that. So, subject headings are used for materials that have definite and definable subjects. That means a subject has to be definite and it should be defined. So you know what is physics, physics is defined. You know what is chemistry, chemistry is defined, right? So you know what is library science, it is defined. It has to be a definable subjects. So for that, subject headings are used. So in some cases there will be indefinite. The works are so indefinite. Okay. So in their subject content, it's better not to assign any heading at all. So that is the general advice we are giving. If the subject is definable and it is definite, the subject headings can be used. If the works are indefinite, so it is not referring to a particular subject or something, it is advisable not to assign any heading. If the cataloger cannot determine a definite subject, and if the reader is unlikely to find the item under a makeshift or a general heading, it is difficult, right? It is difficult. It is better not to assign any heading for that. Leave it as it is. So see this example. The headings human behavior and happiness. For example, For example, when you assign this particular title, human behavior and happiness, if you are assigning this to appreciation, if you are assigning this to misleading when assigned to a book title appreciation. So see, the book title here is appreciation. So you are for this appreciation you are assigning two headings like this: human behavior and happiness. So both are, what you say, it will, though it is literally the meaning might be related, what happens is it will mislead it. It was mislead, which is a personal account of the sources of author's pleasures of life. So the book has, so appreciation is it is talking about the author's pleasure in life. It is not about human behavior. Okay, it is talking about the personal appreciation the author received. So when you assign this to general happiness or general human behavior, it will mislead it. It will not be right. So in that case, it should not be assigned any specific subject heading. So this is an example. Okay, subject heading should be assigned only to definable, which is defined. Okay. So human behavior in it will come under psychology. So this is not psychology, right? It is author is sharing his own appreciation and own experience. It is a personal experience. You cannot generalize to whole human being, right? So it will be misleading. Okay, fine. So some of the principles of CR list of subject headings is main, specific and direct entry. This is one of the important principles. Now we are going to discuss the principles. Specific and direct entry. We know what is specific, right? It should be accurate and it should be specific what it is talking about, right? Similarly, so direct entry is, it should be direct instead of instead of saying in our cases we say students. Students is a general term. And direct means MLIC students. I am talking only about MLIC students. I am directly saying. So like that. So the principle of specific and direct entry is a fundamental in modern subject cataloging. It's fundamental. So when you assign specific and being direct, what happens is, I am directly talking to you only, not to others. So what happens is it will be easy for the reader to retrieve the book, retrieve the resources. So according to the rule, a work is entered in the catalog directly under the most specific subject heading that accurately represents its content. So that means the work should be entered directly based on accurately what the book is talking about. That aboutness is very much important, remember. So this principle was formulated by C.A. Cutter. Okay, in the rules of dictionary catalog, this catalog spelling it is American English and British English, so don't confuse with that. In R we use CATALOGUE. Okay, in America they will use it like this only. So enter a word under its subject heading, not under the heading of a class which includes under the subject. Okay, so it is better, what he says is, it is better to enter a word under its direct subject heading, not under heading of the class which includes that subject. Okay, the broader class, instead of using the broader class, it should enter its subject heading what we have discussed. So in terms of ophthalmology, the general class will be medicine. Okay, but generally it is talking about eye, right? Ophthalmology is talking about eye. Doctors who are treating eye. Okay, that is ophthalmologist. Okay, so it is better to give specific subject headings. That is, ophthalmology is specific. If you write it medicine, means medicine is a broader heading. So medicine has different fields, right? So different subdivisions. So if you write ophthalmology, it will be easier to refer. That is what he is saying about. So for example, his example is Put Lady's Cat. So this book, the book is Put Lady's Cat is the book on the cat. You should, what, in which case you have to put, you should put this particular book on the cat. Under cat, not under zoology, mammals or domestic animals. See, domestic animals, mammals, cat is a domestic animal. That means which we keep it at home and we raise it at home. That is domestic animal. Like a dog, a cow, all are domestic animals. So cat is also a domestic animal. And cat is since it is an animal, it falls under the category of zoology, and it is also a mammal, right? See, all are not wrong, but all are broader headings. Okay. So zoology is a broad subject discipline. It deals about not only about cat. It has other aspects also. Mammals, not only cat, there are other animals, other mammals also. Similarly, there are other domestic animals like dog. So it is better to assign specific subject heading. So enter a work under each subject headings. So here the work is cat, lady's cat. The work is talking about cat. So it is better to assign it under cat. Simple. Not under zoology. If you assign it under zoology, domestic animal, it will be complicated. It will be, it will be it will cover broader aspects. So that is not he is talking about. So here this is the concept of specific and direct entry. Be direct and be specific. Direct means here ladies cat, it is direct. I am talking the book is talking about cat, so I am assigning it directly to cat. Simple. Okay. The reason this principle became sacred to modern cataloging is simply that there is no other way to ensure uniformity. Yeah, this is the best way to ensure uniformity. Yeah, if the book on cat is assigned to cat, it's good. So people searching on cat will easily retrieve what are the resources available in cat. If I put the same heading under mammals or domestic animals, even not only cat, they will get dogs and other irrelevant results also. So in order to maintain uniformity, direct entry is very much essential. Okay, this is the modern. This has become so sacred for modern cataloging, right? So if the heading cats, zoology, mammals, and domestic animals were equally correct for a book on cats, they would be without cutter rule. There would be no single heading for that particular topic, and consequently no assurance of uniformity, right? See, cats, zoology, mammals were all equally correct. Are equally, if there is all, they are all equally correct, to be honest. But what happens is here the uniformity is not ensured. So cat talks only about cats. Zoology talks about broader other aspects of cat is a cat is a part of zoology. Similarly, cat is a part of mammal. Domestic animal, cat is a part. So it is not uniform, right? So uniform heading and direct heading is very much essential. So this is why Cutter brought out this principle. So once cataloger could assign the cats to ladies cat. See, that's what I told you with the patrons example, right? One cataloger, I am assigning this cat to ladies cat. I am assigning this book to cat in the heading cat. Another cataloger, what he does is he assigns to mammals. Third cataloger, he assigns to domestic animals or pets. At another book on cats, what happens? See, it will be difficult for the user to retrieve. Definitely it will be difficult because the subject heading is not uniform. For titles on cats, if I am assigning used on cats and you are using it for domestic animals or pets or zoology, then the uniformity is not maintained. So that is why specific and direct entry is very much important in maintaining uniformity. Remember that. Okay. So what is the principle of specific entry? It holds that the work is entered under a specific term rather than a broader term. That is what I was talking about, right? It is better to put the work under a specific term rather than a broader term. So if a work is being catalogued about penguins, it should be entered only under the specific term. That is not narrower term than the scope of the book itself. That is penguins. It should not be assigned to birds or water birds. Okay. The book is directly talking about penguins. So assign it directly. Assign it directly to penguins itself. You should not put it under birds or water birds. Both are right, broader heading. No need to use broader heading here, right? So that is what specific and direct entry is here. Okay. This is true even though heading penguins does not appear in the list. Yeah, that's what the third principle, third rule we saw now. If the penguins is not in the list, in the SEER list, when a specific subject is not found, what we have to do? We have to put it under the broader heading. Here the broader heading is birds. Okay. So under the birds, reference reads that see also types of birds, birds of prey, canaries can be added as needed. If it is needed, you can add this. The cataloger must establish heading penguins as a narrower term under the heading birds and then assign the book on penguins. In case if it is not in the list, if the word penguin is, if the heading penguin is available in the SEER list or LCSH, whatever it may be, you can directly use it. Simple. If it is not available in the SEER list, what you have to do is you have to put it under the broader term. And list penguin as a narrower term. So next we are going to discuss about the types of subject headings. So you see there are 4 types of subject headings: topical, form, geographic and proper names. I have already told you about this in LCSH also. Again I will brief about these 4 types of subject headings. So topic, as the name itself implies, is they are nothing but the words or phrases that represent the thought content of the subject. Okay, that is called as topic. So while choosing the topic, you have to select a phrase or a word what you feel which represents the thought content of the subject in the best possible way. So for the first principle in considering the topical approach of heading selection is you have to follow the principle of literary warrant. That should be the first consideration. So as I've already told you about literary warrant is the commonly used words in the previous literature should be automatically retrieved. For example, if 9 out of 10 books use the term gun control, there is no point in changing it unless they represent the context in a different way. So if previous literature are using the same keyword or phrase, automatically you can select it as the subject heading list, right? So unless the context is not changed, okay, this is the principle of literary warrant. So the second consideration is you should choose a word based on common usage. I mentioned earlier about that American English and British English usage, right? So in an American library, you should use the spellings or the usage of words which they follow. For example, see, LABOR is followed in American setup, American English, whereas LABOUR is the English setup. So for lift and elevator, lift is used in British English, or elevators is used in American style of English. So you should use the terms which are common depending upon the context where the library is located exactly. Okay, fine. So one more example is another consideration is they should be clear and unambiguous. That means it should be clear and concise. It should represent the thought content exactly. So see this particular example: United States History 1865 Civil War. This is the title. So they have highlighted the key headings for this particular title. If you give Civil War as a heading, what happens is it will be in a broader sense, because Civil War, America alone is not a part of Civil War, right? There are other countries also. So for this particular document, United States History in the period 1865 Civil War, only Civil War alone cannot be a good representative, because Civil War America is only a part of Civil War, and Civil War other countries are also a part, since Civil War alone cannot be full representative of this particular document. That is the point I was trying to convey. Okay. So again, while using words with several meanings, like I have told you with the Python, right? So Python represented for, you can be used for programming language and you can be used for snakes, right? So similarly here I have given an example with depression in the case of economics and in the case of psychology. So while using a single word which represents more than one meaning, it is always advisable to represent with the help of a parenthesis. That means we are controlling the vocabulary to the context which it is being used, right? So here in the case of seals, the parenthesis indicates that seals in this context it represents animals, like that. So for Python you can use parenthesis. Parenthesis is nothing but enclosed in brackets where you can say for what it is used. So Python, only for programming I am using this context. That is why you are controlling the vocabulary, right? Form usually discussed more probably intellectual form of the document, although they represent some physical features, so mainly concentrates on the intellectual form of the document, right? So certain non-book materials such as, let it be DVDs or puzzles or sound recordings or whatever it may be, they can be identified by form headings. Okay, so some form headings can describe general arrangements like almanacs, atlases. They are general arrangements, directories and gazettes. These headings are assigned to individual works as well as to materials about such forms. So this is all about form heading. So it represents both intellectual form as well as physical form of the document. So geographical heading is nothing but it's based on the location, right? So where in what location the book is or resource is talking about. So it's about mainly work in library collection is about geographical areas, countries, cities. Okay, the appropriate heading for such a work is the name of the place in question. So which place the book is talking about, which place the collection is talking about. Okay, so it can be established in the names from the largest continent or countries to a smallest place also. So it is really impossible to include all the names of the cities, all the names of the location, countries in a single edition. Okay, so that's what we discuss in LCSH also, because there are lots of places, right? It is not possible. So in order with the place of the book what you are referring to, you can always have general guidelines of sources. So some of these sources are these Columbia Gazetteer of the World, National Geographic Atlas of the World, Statesman's Yearbook, and these are the sources where you can refer to various geographical location areas, and based on that you can assign a heading depending upon the document in which you are addressing. So names is generally categorized into three types actually, three headings: personal, corporate, and uniform. Personal names, if the work is about a particular author, or Abdul Kalam, you can name it under the personal name heading, Abdul Kalam, simple. Or in the case of the formula is it should be in inverted order. That means the surname comes first and then the first name. In the case of Bill Clinton, Clinton comes first, separated by a comma, and Bill. So it would, you also would add a C reference from Clinton William Jefferson. So corporate names are nothing but the names of bodies, corporate bodies, business firms, institutions, buildings, sports teams, and other organizations, right? So for example, if you are talking about the publications of DRDO, publications of ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization. So here the corporate body is the ISRO. So you can directly name it. You can directly name the heading under the corporate body itself. Okay, that is what they are talking about. So uniform titles are names of sacred scriptures, anonymous works where you don't know who the author is or something like that, periodicals, motion pictures, or radios, television programs. These can be directly entered under uniform titles, such as Gone with the Wind. It is a motion picture. It is the uniform title. Fine. So name has three different types: personal name, corporate names, and uniform titles. And coming to grammar, so these are the general syntax rules for grammars for assigning different subject headings, right? So noun, a single noun is the ideal type, that is a perfect type. While representing the thought content of the subject with a single noun is perfect, that is the ideal type. When the language supplies it, in such case simple noun gives the simplest form. It is easy to identify, but often easiest to comprehend. That is true actually. So for example, abstract ideas and the names of disciplines are usually stated in singular. That's true. Abstract ideas and names of discipline, physics, chemistry, whatever it may be. And for an action, for example, an action, eating, is also expressed in singular. But headings for concrete things cannot be counted, mostly in the plural form. So children here is plural, child is singular. So for concrete things, heading should be in plural, right? So that's why they're not a playground. Playgrounds, that will be better. For concrete things, for action, singular usage is better. For concrete things that cannot be counted, things which cannot be counted, usage of plural forms is better. Concrete things, okay. So compound headings, compound in the sense that there will be more than one sentence and it is connected by a conjunction. So usually and or something like that. So subject heading that consists of two nouns connected by and there are several types. For example, some headings headings may link two things because they together form a single concept. You have see the example bow and arrow, good and evil. See, so they together form the thought content of the book. Only good cannot, good only a half part or bad only a half part. You have to combine both in order to get the whole representation of the thought content what is covered in the document. So you have to combine it using compound headings, right? Using a conjunction and. So adjective is nothing but a describing word. It's often a specific concept is best expressed by a noun with an adjective. So sometimes a specific concept is better to describe what the noun is talking about, right? So Buddhist art, unemployment, insurance, okay. So it is describing the noun, as the adjective is nothing but a describing word. It is describing the noun about what the noun is actually talking about, right? In order to express the specific concept in a better way. Phrased headings, some concepts involve two or more elements that can be expressed only by a more or less complex phrases. The problem is in certain concepts cannot be expressed in a single noun or a single heading. Sometimes it is better, it should be, in order to get a clear idea of what the book is talking about, what the resource is talking about, it is better to use phrased headings. Though they look complex, but it will clear the clarity. It will ensure clarity. So you see this example, insects as carriers of disease. You see, when you refer this concept as insect or heading or disease as a heading, what will happen? Insects, you are talking in a broader sense. So insects means there are lots of insects, lots of varieties of insects, right? And diseases, there are lots of diseases, communicable, non-communicable. There are different kinds of diseases, right? So what happens is, it's a broader concepts. Here what they are talking, the book is talking about only the insects that carries disease. So how will you represent it? Insects, you cannot combine it using and or something like that. So it is better to express these kinds of documents in phrased context. So insects as carriers of disease gives a clear picture that this book or document is dealing only about the insects which carries disease. Okay, for example, mosquitoes carries malaria, something like that. Okay, fine. Next is we are going to deal about subdivision. So there are different kinds of subdivisions. So one is topical. So topical in the sense there will be a broader heading and there will be a subheading, right? Brings out the aspect of a subject or point of view. Okay, bring out the aspect of a subject or point of view. In case of history of a subject, clothing, dress and history. Religion, philosophy of the subject is religion, philosophy. Research, oceanography, research, like that. So geography, as we already discussed about the locational subdivisions. Okay. So it is talking about the bridges in France. A topical heading with a geographic subdivision means note that the topic in a particular place. Simple. A topical heading. So bridge here is a topical heading. France is a geographical subdivision. That means what happens is that topic is located to a particular place only. Here the bridges are, here they are talking about the bridges only in France, not all over the world. So that is what it is describing. Fine. Chronological is nothing but a time period, right? Let it free from the latest to the oldest, or oldest to the latest time period in a chronological order, right? Accepted periods of countries' histories to the span of most frequently treated in the literature. So you see here United States, they are talking about the history of United States from 1600 to 1775 during the colonial period. So here they are bringing all the work together on a single period of history. Okay, fine. See here, one limitation is there in SLSH, that is here list. It includes chronological subdivision only for countries which have a good historical material, for a library to have much historical material. Okay, not for all. United States, Canada, Great Britain, France and Italy. Okay, forms is, I already told you, intellectual and physical forms of the document. Commonly they are some of the subdivisions of these forms are bibliographies, catalog, international bibliography. So here bibliography is a form of the document. Dictionary, Oxford Dictionary or English Dictionary, Hindi English Dictionary. So dictionary is a form of this particular document. Statistics, gazettes, handbooks, manuals, maps, these are the forms. Okay, so maps in the map here, in applying this form subdivisions of the form, what happens is the cataloger should be guided by the character of an item itself, not by the title. Okay, so the cataloger here is guided by the form of the document, not by the title. So here the maps, okay, here the bibliography is about children literature, like that. So form is guiding the cataloger. So these are the different kinds of references. C also and general. C is UF, they use it used for references. So some of this some of the varieties of references direct the uses from use. In chemical geology, you can use geochemistry. For the second part of the compound heading, instead of motel, you can use hotels and motels also. Okay, so you can use these also. Conjunctive terms, that means combining. So religion and science are combining two terms with a conjunction, that is and is a conjunction. So variant spelling is, there will be, I told you, there will be in British English there will be one spelling, in American English there will be one spellings. So you have to give the original spelling and also use other spelling also, like gypsies, and use gypsies with a Y. Opposites, when they are included without being specifically mentioned. If it is specifically mentioned, means you should not include. If it is a general concept context, you can always include the opposites of the heading. So in case of disobedience, it is a obedience. So singular to plural, when two forms are not filed together, you can use goose. Instead of goose, you can use you can also use geese. Okay, so these C also references have this is called what you call have a related heading or heading designated as NT and RT, that is narrow term and related terms. So what we call this as hierarchical and associative relationships, right? So in case of an actor, what will be the broad term? Entertainers. Actors are what is the function? What is the main role? They are entertainers. Okay, so actor is a part of entertainer. And narrower term is comedians. So he is a comedy actor, narrower term. So what is the role? Related terms to actor is acting, right? Okay, fine. So next is general references. The C also terms is So it gives guidance, it gives general references which refers for one heading to an entire category or other classes of headings, okay, rather than individual heading. So for furniture, the C also references kinds of furniture to an entire category of furnitures. Here in the case of bookcases, chairs, tables, or whatever the furniture is dealing with, the entire categories of furniture is talking about, right? So this is C also. So these are the different advantages. Tier list is easy to understand, it's flexible, and it's simpler to use. That is true actually, and the rules are fairly explicit. That means it's apparent and visible. And it provides useful reference guide, that is to the users and also to the library side. And the common usage of creating subject heading is familiar with most of the users. So it uses only familiar terms, whereas LCSH uses more complex terms also. Disadvantages is only for useful for small libraries because the vocabulary is very much less actually. Okay, the cataloger must develop, for a big library, the cataloger needs to develop a greater vocabulary, larger vocabulary, with controlling the vocabulary to certain contexts, right? So it is not backed up, there is no theoretical foundation to back up the subject indexing of a sheer list of subject headings, right? So with the growth of knowledge, with the new subjects, the interdisciplinary nature of research, there will be new subjects every now and then. So it will be difficult to accommodate all these newly emerged vocabulary into SLSH. So these are some of the disadvantages and advantages, okay? So this is in comparison. You see, in the right hand side you can see this is sheer list of subject headings, and the left hand side this is LCSH. See how many narrower terms are there for a single information here, okay? And there will be broad term also. The broad terms are missing here. There will be broader terms also. So if you give large number of terms, it will definitely, what will happen in certain cases, it will confuse the user, right? So in small libraries it is not needed. They will use only commonly accepted vocabulary, commonly acceptable words, right? Common usage words. For example, here they won't use whiskers. Most probably they will. Not many people. Most of the people, they won't search for whiskers, right? So similarly here, see, only they have given the used for and the broader term and the narrower term. Okay, not much. So they are simplifying the process. So that's why it's used in small libraries with less vocabulary. Okay, this is all about sheer list of subject heading. So this is the sources which is used to prepare this particular presentation. So sheer list is published by EBSCO. Kindly go through this particular website to get full resource material about what is sheer list and what are the principles and the entries and the different kinds of subdivisions and so on. So thank you.